6:36, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And welcome on in to your Thursday, January 9th. Hope you're having a great morning so far. The Tennessee State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, always great to have you on the program, sir. I'm going to jump right into it. We do have a new legislative session coming up here for the state of Tennessee. In the headlines today, and it was in the headlines yesterday as well, of course, I'm taking great interest in this story, this brothel, this prostitution ring in Antioch. You've got 5 guys. From what I understand, they are Venezuelan. Now, my worry, and we talk about this a lot, is that the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, is in Antioch and running this brothel. We know that the TBI has said that they are here in Middle Tennessee. And they're operating in every major city, Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. So how worried are you that they are getting more of a foothold here in Middle Tennessee?
Well, good morning, Dan. Always good to be with you as well, and thank you for having me on. Well, of course, we're concerned, and there are a lot of conversations going on across Tennessee with our law enforcement agencies. You've got the TBI, Homeland Security, then obviously our sheriffs and police departments all across the state. They are very aware of the presence of these individuals, these gang members in Tennessee, very much on heightened alert and ready to pounce whenever they commit any type of illegal activity such as this. One of the concerns about the open border, we've talked about it before, is the human trafficking element of this. You've got people that are in sex slavery, Dan. That's what's happening, is human trafficking. And it's just another example of the failed border, the consequences of the failed border from the Biden administration, while we're so happy to see President Trump come in and not only secure the border, but help us get these people out of our state.
Had a call yesterday, another news, somebody asked about a ban on hemp here in the state of Tennessee, which confused me, of course, because I don't believe, and it's not, hemp is illegal here in Tennessee. Remember, hemp, just for folks who don't know, hemp is considered cannabis, but it's 0.3% or less THC, and you can grow it, and you can make things like clothing and paper and animal feed and things like that. So in Tennessee, under that definition, hemp, Jack Johnson, I don't believe it is illegal, is it?
No, you're exactly right, Dan, and you defined it perfectly. The federal government passed a farm bill back in, I believe it was 2014, and that legalized that, or clarified that hemp was legal, and your definition was spot on about how you define it. And people like hemp. They use it for all kinds of products, and in fact, if you go back and look at history, a lot of your robes and clothing were made with hemp back in ye olden days, as they would say. And it can be a very valuable product, but it does have that 0.3% THC or less in there, and so you'd have to have a whole lot of it to try to have any type of intoxicating power from it.
All right, now, that did segue, though, into a conversation about medical marijuana here in the state of Tennessee, and that's a very nuanced answer as to whether or not medical marijuana is legal in the state of Tennessee. So talk a little bit about whether or not it's legal or illegal, and then we'll talk about this upcoming legislative session where I don't know if it's going to come up or not, but I'm curious as to whether or not you think it will.
Sure. So what we've done in Tennessee is we've listened to our medical professionals, and where there is clear documented cases that there are scientific evidence of cannabis products, and typically cannabis oil. And this is a very, very refined product. And I believe don't want your listeners to get mad at me if I have my math wrong, but we're talking about hemp is 0.3% THC or less. These cannabis oils can get up to about 0.9%. And these are oils. There's nothing that you smoke or to get high on. But there is clear medical evidence that those products can be very helpful, say, for an example, but for a child who has a seizure disorder, that these oils are helpful. So we have authorized or legalized the use of these oils in very limited situations for people with MS, for example. And again, we're listening to our medical professionals. But we just very much in Tennessee believe we got to keep a very tight rein on this. I did some traveling recently, and I'm sure you have as well, where you go to places, you walk down the street, all you can smell is pot smoke. And we don't want that to happen in Tennessee, whether it's for medical or recreational use. But we do want people who can have health benefits to be able to have access to it.
I know that veterans, who have PTSD and these kinds of things, they have said that this really helps them as well. Part of what happens in Tennessee, from what I understand, is that this THC apparently must be obtained from outside the state and under really strict regulations. At least that's what I read. Is there any thought of, how do I say this? Is there a middle ground between being Denver, Colorado, where you're right, Senator Johnson, you go down Colorado, Denver especially, I used to live there, and you smell pot like literally everywhere. But we can also be really, really far on the other side and really make it strict to the point where there's people that need help and they can't get that help. Is it a conversation where there might be at some point just a little bit more loosening of the reins without being Denver, Colorado?
Exactly. And the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes. Listen, we in Tennessee, we're a very conservative state, as you know. We don't want recreational use. I want to be very clear about that. I would never support recreational legalization of marijuana. And if we're going to continue to explore additional uses for medicinal purposes, we're going to listen very closely to our medical professionals, and even they disagree sometimes, as you know, about the efficacy of these things. But where there's clear evidence, we will continue to look at that. And yes, we have no problem. If there's a clear evidence when someone is suffering and there is a medicinal use and they can benefit from the use of these products, we will absolutely look at that and make that legal for them. We don't lack compassion in that area, but we also don't want to have, as you said, like it is in Denver or Los Angeles or New York, where you can't even go outside without smelling pot smoke everywhere. We're not going to allow that to happen in Tennessee.
645, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Tennessee State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson is joining us coming up after the traffic. We're going to talk about the future of school choice right now. They're time to check the roads on WTN. 645, weather today, a high of 35, sunny skies, really cold right now at 16 degrees. And of course, we have the snow starting early tomorrow morning. So, Senator Johnson, let me ask you, the 2025 legislative session is pretty much upon us. When we talk about school choice, you, William Lamberth, of course, filed the Education Freedom Act of 2025. That was back in November. We talked about that. A poll from the Beacon Center said that 73% of Republicans and 51% of Democrats support the governor's plan. And so now the question is, and you always got to consider the source for some of these polls, whatever, but I think there's a lot of people that are for this plan. How is this going to be dealt with in this next legislative session?
Well, great question, Dan, and I'm so excited about getting this done in Tennessee. I've supported school choice, and many others have as well for many, many years. And why wouldn't you? That's a question I would ask. Why would you not support people being able to use their own tax dollars to educate their child, in a manner in which they deem appropriate? To me, it's just common sense, and I am perplexed when friends of mine who I respect. Some of them I respect, some of them I don't, but who call themselves conservative but think that the government should dictate where your child goes to school. That's antithetical to everything that we as conservatives believe. We believe in parental empowerment. Parents should make decisions. And maybe the public school down the street is a good alternative for your child. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a Christian school or some other type of school that you as a parent think would be a better alternative for your child. So I don't understand why someone would not support empowering parents with educational choice. I do believe we're going to get it done this year. We were very close this past legislative session, could not quite come to an agreement between the House and the Senate on the variations of the bill. We had great conversations over the summer, and as you said, we're going to convene this coming Tuesday, and we may even go into special session. Happy to talk about that if you want. there's some conversations about that to get it done, along with hurricane relief for Upper East Tennessee.
So this might be, and you just mentioned there's been conversations going on. This might be a how the sausage is made kind of question. But last year, there were 3 different versions. The governor's version, the House version, the Senate version. The House had a ton of various proposals in it. The Senate was a cleaner bill. The governor had his own version. The whole idea fell apart because, as you said, you guys nobody could get on the same page. Since the end of the last session, have there been discussions to get everybody on the same page so that you go in, everybody knows what the bills are going to have and you know where you fell down last year and how to get everybody on the same page this year?
Yes, there have. And the reason for this is when you look at education across the board, K-12, higher education, pre-K, it's a massive, massive industry, if you will. It's a massive undertaking in the state of Tennessee, and we spend a lot of money on it. And we should, because we want our kids to be educated. And you throw in private schools, private education, homeschooling, education in general is a big, big, complicated issue that has a lot of moving pieces and parts. So when you poke it on one side, it pokes out on another. And so obviously every single year we have lots of ideas about how to improve public education, how to make our homeschooling community even more independent and have better options. And so naturally, when you start talking about any type of education reform, a lot of people are going to weigh in with different ideas. And so it was more of a structural, procedural type thing this last legislative session. So I do believe we've got a good bill. The bill that Leader Lamberth and I introduced, I think will be the bill that we will get passed. But at the same time, there are some good ideas about some other education reforms. You know, we have invested more and done more to improve public education as Republicans. Republicans have controlled the state of Tennessee for about 13 years now. A lot of new people don't realize that. Prior to that, it was Democrats for over 100 years. And in the last decade, Republicans have done more to improve public education than Democrats did in the 30 years combined prior to that. So don't tell me because I support school choice that I'm anti-public education. I'm not, nor are my colleagues. But we want a good public education system. You can do that while at the same time supporting parents to pick other alternatives that they think are best for their kids. So I think we'll get it done. There's a lot of momentum. I'm excited about it, and it's going to be good for kids, good for education in Tennessee.
All right, so I've got 30 seconds left. Possibility of a special session inside the actual session. Because I think it gives it the attention it deserves. Also, more relief funds to be allocated for folks in Eastern Tennessee because of Hurricane Helene?
That's correct. And not only additional relief, it gets complicated because you got FEMA money that's coming in, but it takes the federal government forever. So we want to be able to front load and get some money in the hands of people who need it badly to rebuild their homes, rebuild schools. We want to be able to do that, and then also deal with property tax obligations and that kind of thing. We love our neighbors in Upper East Tennessee. They got hit very hard. We're going to help them recover as quickly as they can. All
right. Thank you very much, as always, Tennessee State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. Always great to have him on the program. 650 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up right before the news with Joan Jones, I've got another Adam Carolla soundbite, a Californian who is sounding off on Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and the local leaders as Southern California does continue to burn. Details straight ahead. Dan Mandis here with a question for you. If your roof was destroyed in a storm, how much of that replacement cost would your insurance company cover? Now, if you don't know, you really do need to ask because some insurance companies refuse to pay full replacement cost. They're going to deduct money for an older roof. Now, this means that the insurance company will depreciate how much they pay for your roof claim. Older roof, they're going to pay you less, and that could leave you on the hook for thousands of dollars. Now, my friends at King & Associates Insurance, they will pay full replacement costs. So whether you have to replace a 10-year-old roof or a 2-year-old roof, it's going to be replaced when you have King & Associates Insurance. It is that kind of focus on customer service that does make King & Associates Insurance one of the best insurance companies around. So call them, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out, 615-329-8121, 615-329-8121. Get your Royal Review, tkinginsurance.com. 651, Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news at 7?
Well, President Biden has just done it again. We'll tell you what he has just done for Ukraine this morning. And President Trump breaks donation records as his first day in office approaches. Those stories at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.